Your Honour, if it pleases the Court, Miss Hossain on behalf of the applicant, Miss April Morris. In accordance with my instructions, Your Honour, I understand this matter is listed for a bail application, which I understand the prosecution does oppose, alleging that my client is an unacceptable risk. Pursuant to Section 4 of the Bail Act, Your Honour would utilise as a threshold which states that a person accused of an offence and being held in custody in relation to that offence is entitled to be granted bail unless the bail decision maker, being you, Your Honour, is required to refuse bail by this Act. I also refer to Section 21 of the Charter of Human Rights, which defines that every person is entitled to liberty and security. Your Honour, it's known that my client is deprived of her liberty as she is remanded in custody, so it's of best interest to ensure that she is remanded rightfully. As per procedure, Your Honour would proceed to evaluate whether the accused offences is regarded as a Schedule 1 or a Schedule 2 offence, where an exceptional circumstances test, Section 4A of the Bail Act, or a compelling reasons test, Section 4C of the Bail Act, is required to be undertaken. However, within this matter, neither of the offences my client is charged with, Your Honour, fall under Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 offences, and further, she is not engaged in any outstanding or pending matters that involve a Schedule 1 or a Schedule 2 offence. So I'll leave it to the prosecution to manifest that there is an unacceptable risk factor under Section 4E of the Bail Act, subsection 1A and 1B. The prosecution, Your Honour, under Section 4D, subsection 2A and B, would be required to hold the burden of establishing and highlighting compelling reasons to unacceptable risks in one or more of the prescribed ways to you, Your Honour. Your Honour, I refer you to Section 5, capital AAA, subsection 1 of the Bail Act, which reads, a bail decision maker, considering the release of an accused on bail, must impose any condition that, in the opinion of the bail decision maker, will reduce the likelihood that the accused may endanger the safety or welfare of Miss Kendall or any persons committing an offence while on bail, interfere with the two witnesses that were present at the time of Miss Morris's offence, or otherwise obstruct the course of justice in any matter, or fail to surrender into custody in accordance with the conditions of bail, Your Honour. Your Honour, the matter that stands before you does not demonstrate the usual characteristics and behaviour of Miss Morris and is considered to be a rather out-of-pocket type of incident for my client. Her well-behaved past, reputation in her community, and aspiration to achieve greater goals with her partner and her job suggests that she is a very unlikely to commit an offence while on bail, Your Honour. Further, no evidence or records of Miss Morris suggest that she would not surrender into custody in accordance with conditions of bail, as she has not ever did so before. Section 4E, subsection 3A and B of the Bail Act suggests several factors are to be considered in determining a risk mentioned in subsection 1A of the Section 4E of the Bail Act is an unacceptable risk. The bail decision maker, being you, Your Honour, must take into account the surrounding circumstances, which is defined under Section 3, capital AAA of the Bail Act. Additionally, Your Honour must consider whether there are any conditions of bail that may be imposed to mitigate the risk so that it is not an unacceptable risk. And I propose to take you through those points, Your Honour. I would like to identify that my client's alcohol consumption portrayed a massive influence on her actions of the offence, as it isn't in her natural intelligent behaviour to cause such injuries that results in several stitches to be undertaken. Your Honour, Miss Morris has a blemish on her criminal records which only contains one offence that was committed 5 years ago whilst having her licence suspended, which resulted in no conviction, Your Honour, and therefore defence submit this is not a cause of unacceptable risk. Miss Morris is a well-behaved citizen, and Your Honour would have recognised that it is a much possible outcome for my client to remain consistently free from committing any offences for a longevity of time, especially as she lives in a supportive home that has a stable accommodation as well as a stable network. Suffering from her allergies, Your Honour, Miss Morris is allergic to penicillin and hay fever and seasonally requires prescribed medicine to maintain reasonable and manageable health conditions. Being remanded in custody is likely to worsen her conditions very unnecessarily. Your Honour, my client has never had to comply with bail conditions previously, as she was never on bail for any previous offences and therefore has never been subject to a summons to answer questions. Further, Your Honour, Miss Morris was never released under a parole order and has never been subject to a community corrections order for any previous committed offences. Your Honour, as a working class citizen, my client earns $125,500 in a full-time marketing field job and resides as well as provides for a de facto relationship with her partner of 2 years, Paulina. Your Honour, Miss Morris additionally holds stock shares worth $75,000 and savings over $50,000, Your Honour. My client's willingness to continuously improve herself and be goal-orientated is also conveyed through her commercial pilot license that she does currently obtain. My client was born and raised in Melbourne and conveniently works here too, and she contributes to society through those professions, Your Honour. My client has not been in contact with her childhood friends for the past half decade and rather utilises her time away from work, being an influencer on social media, which deems to be another source of revenue for her, where she influences thousands of people to continuously better themselves every day, Your Honour. Spending time with her partner as well as at parties, dancing and socialising is another activity Miss Morris also enjoys engaging in. Your Honour, my client is additionally willing to cover the damages she may have caused as she is remorseful of her actions. Section 5, capital A, subsection 2A of the Bail Act imposes that if a bail decision maker imposes one or more conditions, each condition and the number of conditions must be no more onerous than is required to reduce the likelihood that the accused may do a thing mentioned in subsection 1A to D. Your Honour, in the presence of strict bail conditions, the unacceptable risks that were mentioned can be ameliorated by the imposition of the following conditions. Miss Morris is to get into no contact with Miss Kendall in any way, and if by coincidence seen in public, must maintain a 20-metre distance from each other. Miss Morris is to get into no contact with any of the two witnesses that were present at the time of Miss Morris's offence. Miss Morris, as has already been doing for the past 5 years, is to maintain no contact with her criminal gang childhood friends to reduce the likelihood of any further offences, Your Honour. Miss Morris is to surrender her commercial pilot licence and passport to eradicate the idea of a flea, which I'm certain my client would not do. And finally, Miss Morris is to undertake an anger management and alcohol rehabilitation program to be able to reflect and cleanse her body for future endeavours and a safer community, Your Honour. To my knowledge, the conditions proposed are no more onerous than is required in order to maintain the grounds we hope for whilst on bail. I submit, Your Honour, that the detention of my client is not required and the conditions are suffice, rather than detaining Miss Morris where we could see unwanted adverse effects, Your Honour. Thank you for your time, Your Honour.